online at Paydo is follow these simple steps. Register, log in, get a PIN, and pay. If you purchased a property after March 2nd, 2020, you will likely not receive a tax bill in your name, but you will still owe the tax. Call the professionals at Security Title. We are here to help.
The vaccine is officially here, and we aren't just talking about the COVID vaccine, but a financial vaccine at Bank Pacific. We may not be doctors, but we can help you with your financial health. Whether to take advantage of today's crazy low rates, or just a local bank that has your back. At Bank Pacific, we want to help make 2021 your best year yet. Because for 66 years, where others put branches, we place roots, and we're rooting for you. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
8 people shot Wednesday at a Philadelphia subway station.
One person is in custody following the afternoon shooting in North Philadelphia. Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw called the shooting a very brazen incident that hurt victims ranging in age from 17 to 71 years old. 2 guns were found at the scene, as were at least 18 shell casings outside the doors of the Olney Transportation Center. A motive has not yet been determined. Police believe there may have been more shooters. Investigators are asking people that may have captured the incident on cell phone video to come forward. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
A new government report finds that life expectancy in the United States dropped a staggering full year during the first half of 2020 as the coronavirus pandemic caused its first wave of deaths. Minorities suffering the biggest impact, with blacks losing nearly 3 years on average and Hispanics nearly 2. The estimates released Thursday by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, saying the nation has not seen such a big decline since World War II. They expect the trend to worsen once the numbers for the complete year are available. There's been another arrest of an alleged Capitol Hill rioter.
22-year-old Christian Secor was ordered held without bail. Investigators say during the unrest, he sat in former Vice President Mike Pence's chair in the Senate chambers. They also say he broadcasted a live stream while it was going on and bragged he wouldn't be caught. The FBI says they received information from at least 11 tipsters who recognized the America First flag he was holding. The university wouldn't release information about him, but said their values of their institution don't match what he did. Secor is charged with 5 federal offenses. Neither he nor his attorney have commented. Rob Dawson, Fox News.
And I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
When's the last time you looked at your homeowner's insurance?
An easily overlooked part of covering our home is what's inside of it. Over time, we buy things we don't want to lose, but don't update our contents coverage. The smart thing to do is get the answers and level up our insurance to make sure we're totally protected.
That's the Insurance Extra Point. Get out there and make something good happen today by calling Guahan Insurance Services at 475-1162 or visit us at the Camacho Landmark Center in Tamuning.
Listen to The Point. Any speaker, anytime. Check us out on your FM radio at 93.3, 104.3 HD3, thepoint.gu, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and tune in. And announcing radio.com. Download the app and hear The Point. Get the latest news, sports, entertainment, and more.
On demand.
Your phone is digital. Your life is digital. And we are too. 93.3, The Point.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Security Title, providing solutions for complex real estate transactions. Featuring the latest special at Mezcla, Manupua, baked barbecue pork buns, Chinese-style barbecue pork in buttery pastry, $30 for a dozen. Call 479-2652 or 2653 to place your order.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Starting out with a respectful reading of the Second Amendment, as is our usual custom here on Tall Tales, moving right along to Zemi Ikotny. something very strange happened at the Daily News today. They ran a really good editorial from USA Today. They ran an editorial from Jonathan Turley, the Shapiro Professor of Public Interest Law at George Washington University and a member of the USA Today's Board of Contributors. I don't know how that ever happened. But Jonathan Turley is my favorite legal columnist. I've mentioned him more than once on the show here. I used to have, there are a bunch of them out there, Andrew Napolitano and Judge, what's her name, on Fox?
Pirro?
Judge Janine, yeah, and a few others. And, they're all right. They're not top tall tales quality.
Judge Wapner?
Yeah. Turley is really good, and my other really favorite was a guy named Jeffrey Toobin, who was also very good. Jeffrey Toobin doesn't get much TV time or ink in the paper anymore. He apparently decided that he was going to abandon the commenting on legal matters and perhaps perfect a film career by imitating Pee Wee Herman.
I wasn't sure if I was supposed to press that or not. I was like, it could be true.
Yeah, well, not completely true, but close enough, right? Yeah. Strange things happen during these days of Zoom and virtual this, that, and the other thing. And so Jeffrey Toobin's kind of out of the picture. So I still really like Turley. And I've mentioned this before. I've had the opportunity to shake and howdy with Turley, which makes me like him even better. He was out here a few years ago for one of our annual bar meetings. A great lawyer. He's been involved in some really important cases and matters. A really good speaker, and he is as close to being objective as anyone who comments on public affairs. He comes out and admits, I voted for Hillary last time. Yeah. And he is not shy about criticizing Donald Trump when Donald Trump needs criticism. But here's what he says today. Trump's fate is not clear. Despite hopes of some threat of prosecution and conviction overstated. With the acquittal of President Trump in the Senate, many are calling for criminal charges for everything from incitement to racketeering to bank fraud. Now, of course, as far as the Democrats are concerned, if Trump held an ice cream social on his front yard, on his front lawn, that would be grounds for impeachment. Legal experts on CNN and PMSNBC seem to appear like crisis counselors after the acquittal to assure viewers that all was well because Trump can clearly be prosecuted, and convicted. The question is, how serious a prosecution threat is Trump facing? The answer is that the basis for such charges has been overstated, and that without additional evidence, Trump is not looking at a trip to the Huskow anytime soon. According to the Associated Press, the Justice Department is not pursuing Trump on the much-discussed campaign finance allegations tied to payments to porn star Stormy Daniels. So let's look at the two major threats of prosecution and what it would take for a credible prosecution. The airwaves have been packed with legal experts assuring hosts that Trump clearly committed not just impeachable, but criminal incitement. For example, Harvard law professor Lawrence Tribe. Yeah, Tribe is at Harvard. I guess they have a thing for Native Americans. Tribe, Pocahontas. Yeah. And this guy, Tribe, is famous, but very hard left.
It's like a coupon for getting into school.
There you go. Tribe announced the core elements of the crime satisfied. Quote, this guy was inciting not just imminent lawless action, but the violent decapitation of a coordinate branch of the government. Such proclamations do better with MSNBC than DDC, which is the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. The public statements of Trump alone would not make for a credible case for criminal incitement under the controlling case law. And I maintain the same thing as far as impeachment is concerned, but as I said earlier, you could impeach a president for having an ice cream social on his front lawn. Nevertheless, District of Columbia Attorney General Karl Racine, now this is something strange about D.C., it's an entirely a federal enclave, so of course it has a United States District Court and a United States Attorney, but it also has some of the functions of a city or a state. So it has its own Attorney General as well. And this guy, Karl Racine, I think he has a cousin named Herman Kenosha, but that's another story.
I got that one.
You got to know a little bit about southern Wisconsin.
Has an adopted sister, Waukesha.
There you go. Karl Racine garnered acclaim by announcing soon after the January 6th riot that he was investigating Trump for possible incitement charge. Then nothing happened. Why? The reason is that while crime is not clear, the case law is. In Brandenburg versus Ohio, the United States Supreme Court ruled in 1969 that even calling for violence is protected under the First Amendment unless there is a threat of imminent lawless action and is likely to incite or produce such action. Trump never called for violence and instead told his followers to go to the Capitol peacefully to cheer on those challenging the electoral votes. Such protests at capitals are common, and while reckless, Trump's speech could easily be interpreted as a call for a protest rather than violence. And of course, it's even debatable whether it was a protest because there weren't any fires in the background of the camera shots like the ones from CNN. Notably, Ku Klux Klan leader Clarence Brandenburg also referred to a planned march on Congress after declaring that revengeance, a new word, revengeance, could be taken for the betrayal of the president and Congress. The Supreme Court still overturned Brandenburg's conviction. The court has consistently rejected the type of arguments by tribe and other legal experts as a threat to free speech in our society. In Hess versus Indiana, the court rejected the prosecution of a protester, declaring an intention to take over the streets, holding that at worst, the words amounted to nothing more than advocacy of illegal action at some indefinite future time. And I've mentioned before, you know, when people try to pile it on, all of that talk about the fake election, you know, all of that stuff just led up to the incitement of the insurrection. No, it has to be contemporaneous. It can't be something that somebody said last week. The court consistently rejected the arguments of tribe and other legal experts as a threat to free speech in our society. In NAACP versus Claiborne Hardware Company, the court overturned a judgment against the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. I wonder how they get away with a name like that. It's racist, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. I'm surprised that African Americans don't get on them. After one official declared, if any of you guys, any of you going in and any of them racist stores, we're going to break your damn neck. That was ruled as the hyperbolic language of advocacy. So you could say, if we catch any of you going in any of them damn racist stores, we're going to break your damn neck. That's not incitement. It's hyperbole. It's the hyperbolic language of advocacy that would not make for a strong case for criminal incitement. Prosecutors would need testimony showing that Trump knew of the high risk of violence and wanted it to occur. They'd also seek evidence that Trump actively delayed the deployment of reinforcements or sought to block efforts at preparation. The speech and prior public statements would not be enough to sustain a conviction. Like Racine, Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis has been lionized for opening criminal investigation into the phone call Trump made to Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger last month. Willis said Trump's action could constitute solicitation of election fraud, the making of false statements to state and local government bodies, conspiracy, racketeering, violation of office, and any involvement in violence or threats related to the election administration. Again, the call itself does not clearly establish such crimes. It was a settlement discussion between the Trump team and Georgia. There were lawyers present, not some backroom arm twisting. The Trump campaign alleged there were uncounted votes that surpassed the 11,779 deficit, and Trump asserted, "I just want to find 11,780 votes, which was one more than we have." Former prosecutor Daniel Goldman, who worked on the first Trump impeachment, tweeted that the smoking gun was in line by Trump. "It's going to be costly to you. I've charged extortion and mob cases with similar language." In reality, the line was, "It's going to be very costly in many ways." And here's another one. The city attorney for West Palm Beach, Florida, Herman Schwartz, announced yesterday that he is now prosecuting Donald Trump for jaywalking in downtown West Palm Beach.
Again, I don't know if you were kidding or not.
Yeah. The Herman Schwartz announced that Donald Trump was being prosecuted for jaywalking in downtown West Palm Beach, Florida, much to the cheer of Democrats. Yeah. Willis would need to show pressure outside of a settlement discussion, and both sides are expected to state their positions and demands strongly. That would take the form of Trump making or supporting threats or making promises to Raffensperger to get him to violate the law. The call itself is not a smoking gun of criminality. This doesn't mean Trump won't face other threats. The most credible would come out of New York, where he's being investigated for bank and tax fraud. If so, such charges could backfire. If Trump were to beat them at trial or on appeal, it would be cited as vindication, not just on the charges, but on the second impeachment. The former president could end up like the character of Big Jewel in Guys and Dolls, which is a Broadway play, Guys and Dolls. Big Jewel proudly proclaiming 33 arrests, no convictions. Indeed, absent new transformative evidence, prosecuting Trump on cases in Washington or Georgia could result in a resounding victory just before the 2024 election. They could make Big Jewel's record not just a criminal boast, but a presidential slogan. So that's Jonathan Toobin, who you can't say he's a Republican sop, because he's not. I've seen columns he's written where he's been really hard on Trump. So very well done, Jonathan. And so well done that I'm going to give you permission to come back to another bar meeting one of these years. Okay, let's turn now to the Post. Court gives another lenient drug sentence, another wrong message. Case after case, the narrative doesn't get old. A parent who deals methamphetamine or other hard drugs pleads guilty after they get caught and then present a sob story to a judge for a slap on the wrist sentence because they don't want to be away from their children. In more instances than we can count, right off the bat, the tears move the court into drastically reducing the sentence of a defendant. In this most recent case, which had sentencing Tuesday, the parents of 4 young kids got luckier than many other drug offenders. They were spared from having to spend any time in prison at all. And they didn't even need to call in the heavy artillery. They didn't even need Angel Sablon. That's amazing. The husband in this most recent case, Joshua Regis, faced a maximum of 20 years in prison. Instead, he was sentenced to serve probation for 3 years. This means he's free to roam around in our community, and unless he breaks the rules of his probation, he won't set foot in prison. The U.S. Probation Office also noted that the defendant had tested positive for drug use between 2016 and 2018 while he was on pretrial release awaiting sentencing. He told the court he's been sober more recently. The father of 4 succumbed to what he called influence from people around him. It was peer pressure. I hung around with the wrong people. I started using first. After using, I couldn't afford it, so I moved on to selling it, he said to the court. He, along with his wife, had pleaded guilty in 2016 to attempted possession of methamphetamine with intent to distribute. It was said in court that the 14.23 grams of drugs they brought in and was intercepted was worth about $37,000. Based on discussions in court, some of their kids would have been toddlers when they made these choices. His wife, Sylvia Longuero Regis, had a choice to make when her husband started getting involved in drugs. She could have packed up and left with the kids to keep them out of harm's way. Instead, she jumped into the drug world as well, regardless of the safety and well-being of the very kids mentioned before the court to argue against sending her to federal prison. When District Court Judge Frances Gatewoods asked Sylvia Regis how she ended up getting involved with drugs like her husband, she said in part, when he got himself involved as a user, I didn't know how to handle anything but to be a family. Maybe I was blinded and never wanted to leave him. We now have 4 kids together. I know that I'm my own person. I could have made better decisions. It was a truthful and honest mistake. It was an honest mistake. Let's see, who was it that made the honest mistake before?
That would be...
It's a senator. Which one was it?
I can't remember now. Honest?
An honest mistake. Oh, it was Tello.
Oh.
Yeah. It was an honest mistake, I think, yeah. Not a dishonest mistake. Yeah. She was sentenced to probation for a year. There was mention in court that Sylvia Regis is a cancer survivor. Even more so, the moral compass for her as she faced a life-threatening health scare would have been to be strong by staying away from drugs and steering her children to safety. It was a test for her to show her kids she'd rather not make money than earn drug money. The federal judge seemed to have given the couple's fate a great deal of thought and an acknowledgement that this is a good deal for the couple. Quote, don't blow it, because I don't often give a sentence like this, because it was such an unusual circumstance Judge Gatewood said, "You can't get back into drugs." In the end, the judge essentially fell for the sob story, and not so much on the message this present pass will send to others who may be thinking of dealing drugs or are already in this situation and are thinking of their future. Would certain people in desperate circumstances risk earning some quick, big drug bucks, knowing they could very well get the payoff without having to serve time in prison at all? Thanks to the examples given in cases like the Regis's, the answer is clear. The judge is usually on point with her tough sentences. This one was a miss. The safety of our community was not given more weight than the personal circumstances of the Regis's. We understand that mistakes are made and that everyone deserves a second chance, but the court is equally responsible to ensure that sentences imposed on criminals tell a clear message and act as a deterrent. This is particularly important in our community. I had a news flash. It was Louise Muñoz when she filed for the unemployment. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I was racking my brain going, which...
It was not Tello, but it was an honest mistake.
You weren't referring to the purse, but that's a different story.
Yeah. Okay. And then Zydenko Gatewood asks, how come our young island boys turn to drugs? With all due respect, this case is one of the answers as to why. Sorry, Judge, but, you know, if apparently this whole methamphetamine thing is very attractive. The guy that mowed down the educators up by Benevente Middle School the other day said, I just first got to try meth last night. Like, you know, I'd never been to Disneyland before. And I finally got a chance to go to Disneyland. So I tried it just the night before. So I'm not really experienced with it. I guess that was my problem. Maybe if I'd been using meth for a year or so, this wouldn't have happened. So it's apparently very attractive to certain elements in our community. So the only thing that we can do, as far as I can see, is make it less attractive. You want to do meth? You want to go to federal prison for a long time? That's the choice.
I've never stuck my head in hydrochloric acid either. I wonder.
Okay, so I'm going to give the coveted blue star to the Post today. There it is. Congratulations, Guam Daily Post. And let's see, that takes the Post up to 242 blue stars to 57 for the Daily News. Talking about the Daily News, you recall, I keep coming back to this. Okay, I'll come back to the Daily News right after this short break here.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at GuamTraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts. Brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point. Sunday brunch at Mezcla Bistro in Hagåtña is back, hotter than before.
Come and enjoy Mezcla's true taste of Guam.
At only $28.95, enjoy your Sunday with your friends and family with their free-flowing house mimosa or house draft beer from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Let Mezcla serve up your favorite local foods. Call them at 479-2652
or 479-2653 to book a reservation. Limited seating available.
Mezcla reminds everyone to be safe and stay sanitized. Sunday brunch at Mezcla, a true taste of Guam.
And now, back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the one radio show politicians don't want you to listen to. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
Okay, so the Daily News a couple weeks ago ran this hot story about the weather. The temperature dropped to 69 degrees. It's the coldest it had ever been on Guam. Of course, the international radio listening audience found out the right answer immediately. It was the coldest it had ever been on that particular day, not forever. And a couple days ago, we had an anniversary of a day in 1973 when the temperature got down to 65. Well, if you're talking about Monday, the 15th of February, the coldest temperature we ever had on February 15 was 68 in 1966. So I keep coming back to this. Daily News can't get it right on weather. Sorry, folks. Okay, let's go from there right into the card. Program notes for today. I've got, we start with a contentious topic of who has the right to take the life of an unborn child. And this, the caption of this one is, let me see, what is it? O'Malley versus Bez. And then it looks like Chris Duenas is finally going to push Bill 11 across the finish line, much to the chagrin of the governor. I'm going to finish up on Oregon demonstrates a reality deficiency. I'm going to finish Laura Sauter continues as the quote, ironic quote, champion of a linguata. And then I'm going to talk about John Ryan and the phrase qui tam, as or qui tam. And then how Pocahontas inspired some woke legislation in Hawaii. As usual, we got a really great show coming up here today. You're going to, as usual, be really glad you tuned in. So let's start out with O'Malley versus Bez. And I have two letters to the editor, one to the Daily News, one to the Post. First one is from Sharon O'Malley, who is a resident of Agania Heights. And she writes to rebut Mia Jesus. You'll recall that Mia Jesus found two subjects that she really was intense about. One, she really got on Pido Terlahi for cockfighting. Barbaric, cruel to animals, etc. And Mia just had no time for cockfighting. And then she got on the case of 5 Republican senators who said they were not going to change our law to allow for teleabortion. And Mia, really chastised them to leave their religion outside the legislature and consider a woman's right to choose and those kinds of topics. So Mia was really heated up about both those subjects. And here's what Sharon said. On February 2, you wrote a letter addressed to the women of Guam stating your reasons why telemedicine abortion, that is the killing of an innocent, defenseless human being, needs to come to Guam. On February 12, you wrote a letter scolding Senator Jose Terlahi for the senseless blood sport of killing roosters. In other words, killing innocent babies is okay, but killing roosters is not okay. It's a value judgment. Your February 12 letter spoke about how the world has progressed and changed. It is because of progress that I have evolved to be a pro-life person. It's called ultrasound and social media. Due to modern-day ultrasound, we can now see the life and development of human beings in the womb. Social media is where I can watch on YouTube and Facebook the many personal testimonies of adults who survived a botched abortion, and now they're living productive adults. Testimonies from adults who were the product of rape or incest, and their families chose not to abort, but to give them up for adoption. They thanked their birth mothers for choosing life. It's the guy's name, Ryan Baumberger, I think it is. Was it?
The one who adopted.
Yeah, was adopted, yeah, a survivor. Testimonies of an abortion who, because of the use of ultrasound machines, witnessed babies in the womb squirming and flinching from needles or abortive tools trying to cut them out. Modern technology allows us to see babies in the womb and hear the early heartbeat of living human beings. Progress has improved, but a doctor over the internet cannot possibly save you should your medical abortion go wrong. Well, let's just stop here for a moment here and talk about the A word. And what was the title of today's program, Tony? I'm sorry, Jose.
Euphemism, a mild or indirect word or phrase substituted for one considered to be too harsh or blunt when referring to something horrific, as in abortion is reproductive health care.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, abortion means killing an unborn child in the mother's womb, obviously. That's what abortion means. But the pro-aborts, the lefties, don't want to use that word. A woman's reproductive health. How killing anything can be used in the same sentence as the word health. That's a good one. And it's so typical of where we are today, where the ability to pretend is so important to get along with certain elements of the population. We have to pretend that killing a child, an unborn child, is not murder. We have to pretend that it's reproductive health. And when we consider the rights of that unborn child versus the mother, the mother's right to choice is paramount. Yeah. Of course, causing me always to ask, suppose the baby was born and, when the baby's 10 days old, you decide that baby just doesn't behave. Would it be okay to kill the baby if it doesn't behave?
According to that standard, why not?
Uh-huh. So, and that's the point that Sharon is making here. She's saying with modern science, I remember once upon a time when a woman was in the family way, talk about euphemisms, or when a woman was expecting, we didn't know what the child was going to be. It's kind of like nowadays, but for a different reason. Now we don't know what the child's going to be till they are in their 20s and decide, right? But back in those days, we didn't know if the unborn child that the mother was carrying was going to be a boy or a girl. And there were all kinds of theories about the shape of the mother's abdomen. If it's this or that, it's a boy. If it's that or this, it's a girl. But we didn't know. We really didn't know what went on in the womb prior to the child's being born. Well, we knew, but we didn't have firsthand knowledge. Now we do. Because of all of the modern techniques of imaging and everything, you can actually see inside the mother's body. And that's what Sharon's pointing out. If you look at that and you see that little unborn child in there squirming around in the process of being aborted by an abortionist, pretty hard to make the argument that this is reproductive health. But it doesn't stop the pro-aborts. They continue on with this fiction. Let's get out our Law and Order notebooks here for a moment, Jose. Here's the law on abortion. Up until 1973, some of the states, not all, but some of the states criminalized abortion. Some states made abortion a crime, would punish the mother and the doctor. Some would only punish the doctor. But it was a matter of state law, as were almost all crimes in the initial concept of the United States of America. There were very few federal crimes. And there were very few situations where what some people call the federal government, I call the national government, actually interacted with citizens instead of interacting with states. The only example that I can give you is the post office. That post office in downtown Podunk is a function of the federal government. Almost all of the other relationships were between the national government and the states. The national government didn't interact with the people. Matters such as marriage, divorce, childbirth, education were all matters left to the states until the left came along. And the left, with a case called Griswold versus Connecticut, were able to convince the Supreme Court in a case called Griswold versus Connecticut that although the word privacy never appears in the Constitution, it can be found in the penumbras and emanations of the Bill of Rights, which is, really high-flown language, meaning it's not there, so we just made it up. Because they had to make it up in order to reach the result that they wanted, which they did. Without going into too much detail, the case was put up. It dealt with birth control and education in Connecticut. And the pro-aborts wanted to get that case before the Supreme Court because they thought that they could get a really good result out of it. The first time they tried was a case called Poe versus Ullman. They got that very same question. Is a state law that prohibits birth control constitutional? They got it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court decided that they were not going to assert jurisdiction because although the statute was on the books, it hadn't been enforced for like 60 or 70 years. So they said the matter was moot. So then the creative folks in Connecticut came back with a much more creative way and got it before the Supreme Court in Griswold. That was the foundation for the case that is on the tip of everyone's tongue, Roe versus Wade. That after what Judge Blackmun called the first trimester, whether or not to abort the child or carry it full term was the state laws involving whether or not the child should be carried to full term or aborted was an invasion of the mother's privacy. And once again, going back to the penumbras and emanations, just made it up. Even pro-abortion people would agree with me on that. Roe versus Wade is from the standpoint of judicial craftsmanship, is a horrible decision. It just does not make good sense at all. So the next thing that happened was a case called Planned Parenthood versus Casey, which is kind of the law nowadays, and it did away with the 3 trimesters in Roe versus Wade, and found a division point where the unborn child could survive outside the mother's body. And the case held that states cannot prohibit abortion of an unborn child who cannot survive outside the mother's body. Afterwards, it's possible, but there are some qualifications. So that's what Planned Parenthood versus Casey holds. And then it also holds that since there is a constitutional right to abortion, that state attempts to encumber a woman's access to abortion with unreasonable statutes would also be unconstitutional. So that's where we are today. So if Roe versus Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey were repealed tomorrow, what would happen? What would happen would be it would go back to the states where it should have been all along. I don't like abortion. I wouldn't want our territory to have abortion. But because of the nature of our federal union, what people in Nevada want is probably not what the people in Utah want. So the theory of subsidiarity is that the people in the states should decide these important questions dealing with people. So that's what would happen. So some states would not criminalize abortion. Some states would. Some states that still have their abortion laws on the books, as soon as Roe versus Wade were declared unconstitutional, those statutes would spring back into action. And it would be a much better situation than what we have right now. In fact, I think the notorious RBG said that Roe should not have been decided so soon. Because had it not been decided so soon, there would have been more coherence of ideology on the subject. When Roe versus Wade was decided, there's nothing more to decide. There's no work for the popular branch of the government, which is, in my mind, where these kinds of decisions belong. I've heard that for the ancient Greeks, the word politician was a complimentary term. It was praiseworthy to be called a politician. Because, as you know, in Athens, they invented democracy, which means that you have different interest groups trying to persuade other interest groups as to how things should go. These things can be quite contentious. So the politician was able to resolve conflicts amongst various interest groups so that a consensus could arise. Can't have any consensus on abortion because the dictatorial branch, the undemocratic branch of our government, the Supreme Court, has jumped in where it doesn't belong and said that abortion is now a personal right of the mother. So that's where we are as far as the law is concerned. You look puzzled, Jose.
It's irritating to think that, again, there's a second person that's never been, just the history of discounting groups of people as having no value.
Uh-huh. Well, the Democrats have to stay with this because the worst thing that can happen to them is that they're going to have to face the 14th Amendment and the 5th Amendment. No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. So if an unborn child is, in fact, a person, that person can't be deprived of life without due process of law. Thus, all of these imaginative fictions. Okay, now I turn to the other letter to the editor. This one ran in the Post, and this one is from Ellen P. Bez, MD, FACP, a woman's health physician at the Mariana's Physicians Group in Tamuning. Yeah.
This one has me perplexed too, but I'll ask the question after you're finished.
All right. So a women's health physician. And here's what Ellen says. This past year, our country has experienced a deadly pandemic, civil unrest, destructive protests, and a violent insurrection. Kind of tells you where she's coming from already, doesn't it? As a result, across the country, we are recommitting ourselves to democracy, to finding ways to affect change among diverse interests and points of view. In our community, we must do the same with respect to access to safe and legal abortion. Democracy. Well, the Roe versus Wade decision was democratically decided 7-2. Then she goes on to say, this is an emotionally charged issue and there are strong convictions on both sides. We differ in our views, but we all want to be able to live a safe and healthy life, including, Doctor.
You don't say.
Yeah, including those unborn children. We all want to be free to define our own path. As a community, We need to begin to have respectful conversations to ensure that our laws reflect those values.
Is this a hostile witness?
Yeah, we need to begin respectful conversations to ensure that our laws reflect these the values. And the values are a safe and healthy life. If it's good for her, wouldn't it be good for everybody? The decision to become a parent is one of the most important decisions we make. One every person should be able to make every person should be able to make in consultation with their family. Their own conscience and their doctors. That's why a doctor and a resident of this island for nearly 3 decades, I am proud to support a lawsuit filed this week to challenge 2 Guam laws that impose unreasonable barriers to a woman's choice and deny her access to health care. By preventing the use of telemedicine for medication abortion care, Guam's abortion laws do not reflect the changes in current medical practice. Medication abortion is incredibly safe. Not a single unborn child has lost their life because of medication. Oh, no, that can't be, can it?
Nope.
Yeah. Medication abortion is incredibly safe, effective, and has been approved by the FDA for more than 20 years. I can't tell you how happy it makes me to know that the FDA has approved something. But of course, the FDA also says that you got to hand those. That's telemedicine. But when it comes to the abortion pills, that has to be done in a doctor's office. But she's not going to mention that because it takes away from her story. I'll tell you what, Jose, we need to take a short break and then go into the big halftime show.
Half a day, this is Honey. Here at APL, our expertise and extensive network can help you grow your business and reach out to more global markets. As a responsible carrier, APL is also committed to a sustainable future, whether it's protecting the environment or investing our efforts in giving back to the community. Our dedicated teams in Guam, Saipan, and on U.S. mainland are here to support you. Call 588-4651 or visit apl.com.
76 Circle K, the Subaki Tower, and Spa Ayalam bring you another staycation. We are celebrating Mom and all she does. Win a 2-night stay at the luxurious Subaki Tower, get pampered by Spa Ayalam, and enjoy a delicious lunch and dinner at Casa Oceano. All you have to do is purchase $35 or more in 76 fuel and enter to win a staycation fit for a mom. The more you gas, the more chances of winning. Visit 76circlekguam.com or any Circle K location for more information.
Okay, so here we are back again. We got about 5 minutes to the big halftime show. I notice Kellis probably wants to wait until after the show. So Kellis, after the halftime show and after I finish this, or when I get to the end of this item on the card, I'd really like to entertain your comments. So even though you hung up, you're still first in line after the show. And then after that, I wonder what another Joe wants to talk about.
I guarantee it's not about compact impact.
Okay, well, then another Joe will be the second caller that we entertain. So Ellen says that telemedicine was approved by the FDA for 20 years, but she doesn't tell us about the part about the not using telemedicine to prescribe the mail-order abortion. And then she goes on. The process for medication abortion involves taking 2 different pills that would result in a miscarriage over 1 to 2 days, not unlike the 10 to 15% of women who naturally miscarry each year.
I'm calling foul on that, but that was just I couldn't help myself. That is so wrong.
Go ahead, Jose. Call a foul.
That is so wrong. A natural miscarriage is something that happens without the intervention of someone intentionally terminating a life.
Exactly.
Which is not what this pill does.
And the first, we know from our reading, we know that the first pill kills the baby.
Exactly.
And then you take the second pill a day later, and that causes the expulsion of the corpse from the mother's body.
She left that out.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty interesting how she plays with the words, you know.
Euphemism?
FDA approval. A miscarriage is no different from these abortions. Yeah. These treatments allow patients to avoid more invasive procedures. Oh, that's really good. That makes it okay. Does it change the result? Is the baby dead at the end of either one? I think so.
You know, today I learned that the Dr. Guillotine invented that device to make a more humane, what they call it? Execution.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah, so he was a really kind, Dr. Guillotine was a really kind person, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It was a humane execution.
Yeah. Then she goes on to say, indeed, statistics show that most eligible patients prefer medication abortion to an abortion procedure. Well, there you go. I mean, what more do we need to know? And research and experience from across the United States and abroad show these medications can be prescribed by using telemedicine. Even insurance companies and Medicare accept telemedicine as being comparable to an in-person meeting. She's really calling out all the big guns here. Medicare has approved it, yeah. So if you have any questions about morality, etc., ask Medicare. They're the authority. She goes on to say, all right, let's break for the big halftime show, and I'm going to come back to O'Malley versus Bess.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Reports of another New York nursing home probe. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. Federal investigators reportedly looking into whether the Cuomo administration deliberately manipulated nursing home death numbers.
The Albany Times-Union saying the FBI and U.S. Attorney's Office in Brooklyn, that's the Eastern District of New York, have now launched an investigation examining the actions of Governor Andrew Cuomo's coronavirus task force and its handling of the nursing homes during the pandemic. The New York Attorney General has now said nursing home deaths were severely underreported by the state, and Governor Cuomo's top aide has admitted withholding information from lawmakers.
Fox's Trace Gallagher reports Governor Cuomo has denied any wrongdoing. The National Weather Service says an estimated 100 million Americans are being impacted by severe winter weather. Nearly 30 weather-related deaths reported across the country. The snow has stopped in Texas, but it's still very cold.
At a retirement home in Georgetown, Texas, 13 seniors huddled around 3 space heaters powered by a generator. Generators are a lifeline, but can be deadly. Carbon monoxide calls are up all across the state as people run them in enclosed spaces or try to burn whatever they can to stay warm. One family of 4 in Sugar Land, Texas, near Houston, died in a cold-related fire.
Fox's Casey Stegall. Former President Trump among the millions of people mourning the death of syndicated radio talk show host Rush Limbaugh.
Just a totally brilliant guy, and he could do things that a lot of people couldn't do. He could just talk for 3 hours, no phone calls, no anything, just talk, and everybody found it spellbinding.
The former president appearing on Fox's Hannity, the 70-year-old Limbaugh died early Wednesday after a year-long battle with advanced lung cancer. A new report being issued by the Centers for Disease Control says U.S. life expectancy on average dropped a full year in the early part of 2020, mostly because of the pandemic. America is listening to Fox News.
76 Circle K, the Subaki Tower, and Spa Ayalam bring you another staycation. We are celebrating Mom and all she does. Win a 2-night stay at the luxurious Subaki Tower, get pampered by Spa Ayalam, and enjoy a delicious lunch and dinner at Casa Oceano. All you have to do is purchase $35 or more in 76 fuel and enter to win a staycation fit for a mom. The more you gas, the more chances of winning. Visit 76circlekguam.com or any Circle K location for more information.
Half a day. This is Alicia Bloss from Security Title, reminding you that your 2020 property taxes are now due and payable. You may not know that you can pay your taxes online at pay.guam.gov. All you have to do is follow these simple steps. Register, log in, get a PIN, and pay. If you purchased a property after March 2nd, 2020, you will likely not receive a tax bill in your name, but you will still owe the tax. Call the professionals at Security Title. We are here to help.
President Biden discussing economic policy Wednesday with some of his staunchest supporters.
I want to make it clear I'm a labor guy.
President Biden sitting down in the Oval Office with his good friends, labor leaders, including the president of the powerful AFL-CIO. Richard Trumka has been critical of the president for canceling the Keystone Pipeline, saying it cost thousands of good-paying union jobs. Now he and other union leaders are hoping those green jobs the administration has been promising will materialize, along with a massive federal investment in infrastructure. The cancellation of the Keystone Pipeline and other day one executive actions were big wins for progressives.
Fox's Kristen Fisher at the White House. Some members of Congress peppering a Pentagon staffer about the National Guard presence at the U.S. Capitol.
The Pentagon's top Homeland Defense official, Robert Solis, was asked on Capitol Hill about the threat that is keeping 6,000 National Guards stationed around the Capitol.
I'm not aware of a threat that is out there, but that evolves all the time.
Defense officials say the original plan was to keep the Guard in D.C. following threats by QAnon supporters to mark March 4th, the traditional inauguration date, until 1937. House Armed Services Chair Adam Smith explained.
Why that's relevant, God knows. But at any rate, so now they're thinking maybe we should gather again and storm the Capitol on March 4th. Okay, that is circulating online.
Some lawmakers are asking, could these Guard be better used elsewhere? At the Pentagon, Jennifer Griffin, Fox News.
It's big day Thursday for NASA. Just before lunchtime, they'll mash the button to instruct the Mars Perseverance rover to begin its pre-programmed descent to the surface of Mars. They won't know for nearly 12 minutes if the landing was successful. The mission, among other things, to test technology to generate oxygen for potential future human exploration of the red planet. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Listen to The Point. Any speaker, anytime. Check us out on your FM radio at 93.3, 104.3 HD3, thepoint.gu, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and tune in. And announcing radio.com. Download the app and hear The Point. Get the latest news, sports, entertainment, and more.
On demand.
Your phone is digital. Your life is digital. And we are too. 93.3, The Point.
Sunday brunch at Mezcla Bistro in Hagåtña is back, hotter than before.
Come and enjoy Mezcla's true taste of Guam.
At only $28.95, enjoy your Sunday with your friends and family with their free-flowing house mimosa or house draft beer from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Let Mezcla serve up your favorite local foods. Call them at 479-2652
or 479-2653 to book a reservation. Limited seating available.
Mezcla reminds everyone to be safe and stay sanitized. Sunday brunch at Mezcla, a true taste of Guam.
So here we are back again, O'Malley versus Bez. And I peeked at Facebook here during the interim, and Bez made a big deal out of the fact that the FDA had approved telemedicine 20 years ago. Colin Clark tells us what those three letters mean, FDA. According to Colin Clark, it stands for Federal Damwit Association. Who am I to argue with Colin Clark? Yeah. Ellen goes on to say, insurance companies and Medicare accept telemedicine, etc. And then she says there are real practical consequences to our laws being so out of touch with medicine today. With no abortion providers on Guam, these requirements force patients to fly to Hawaii for care. I'm going to reword that slightly. Fly to Hawaii for an abortion. It's not care. An expensive, burdensome trip that is even more difficult during the Wuhan virus pandemic. There are other problems with Guam's outdated abortion laws as well. For example, abortion reporting law, which is not outdated, it's not an old law, it's a new one. Abortion reporting law requires physicians to provide the government with 25 pieces of personal data about each patient who has an abortion. In so doing, this law interferes with a woman's right to privacy. Oh my goodness. Which is everything, right? By requiring so much personal information that her identity could be revealed. To who?
Prove it.
Yeah. How would, by looking at the abortion reports, at the numbers, how would that reveal anybody's identity? And then an even more important question, wouldn't that be good? If abortion is such a wonderful thing, is it the kind of thing that you want to kind of tiptoe around and you talk about it, but you always kind of hush your voice, etc.?
It's 2021, Bob. The last statistics for abortion on Guam was from the year 2018. Guess when those statistics were put out?
I give up.
Just in 2021. 2 years
of no reports.
Of no reports.
Because somebody asked for them, no doubt.
I doubt someone's going to have personal identity issues with a 2-year-old report.
Really? But, and I've seen that report, and there's nothing that identifies any of the people who contributed the data. So it's like saying, how many people over 21? How many college educated? It doesn't reveal any of that. But then going back again, if abortion is such a wonderful thing, isn't it the kind of thing that you would herald? I exercise my right to choice. I had an abortion on the 17th of February. I'm going to mark that date on my calendar, and I'm going to celebrate it every year. Isn't that, that's the way with children, when a child is born, we have what's called on Guam the christening party, right? So I don't understand, if abortion is so worthwhile and is so important to a woman's health, what would be the problem of knowing who had an abortion and who didn't? 25 pieces of personal information about each patient who has an abortion. In so doing, this law interferes with a woman's right to privacy by requiring so much personal information that her identity could be revealed. I think this is number 4 in the count of whoppers here. No other medical treatment or procedure requires a patient to disclose so much personal information to the government. That's amazing, because every time I go to the doctor, I mean, not the hospital, but just the doctor, it's always the same thing. I have to fill out 10 pages of information every time. And the times that I've been to the hospital, it's no different. There's an awful lot of information that goes into those things. These restrictions represent more than limiting the right to have an abortion. They take away each woman's right to make medical decisions for herself privately. I have news for you, Dr. Biz. No matter if there were reporting requirements or if we had telemedicine, et cetera, that decision is not going to be private because that unborn child is going to know exactly what your decision was. And there's no way that you could stop that instant. Well, of course, you kill the child, so it kind of goes away. But they violate a woman's right to privacy by requiring disclosures so excessive that the woman seeking an abortion can be identified. Wrong, wrong, wrong. They deny women access to health care, which is their legal right. They undermine, and once again, if it's important, shouldn't we have a good statistical handle on what's going on? We do the same thing with live births. They undermine the physician-patient relationship by raising suspicions that a doctor may be reacting to the fear of being prosecuted rather than the patient's interest.
Okay, let's not bring up some certain cases where doctors are definitely reacting to a fear of being prosecuted than the patient's interest.
Uh-huh.
That's like what's that young boy's name?
Yeah, Lebowski. Yeah. So let me read this again. They undermine the physician-patient relationship by raising suspicions that a doctor may be reacting to the fear of being prosecuted rather than the patient's interest. Prosecuted for... You can do better than that. You're an MD. You've been to college. Yeah, okay, now we get down to it. The Catholic Church is clearly opposed to abortion. Therefore, abortion must be good. The church has an active group that promotes legislation designed to place these obstacles before all the women in Guam. Laws are not written for one church or another. No kidding. Laws are not intended to espouse religious doctrine or negate church teachings. So, I think that I can't remember which commandment it is. The 7th, thou shalt not kill?
I think so. It's
one
of the middle ones.
Yeah. Well, there goes our law against murder.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Catholic Church favors that.
Thou shalt not steal.
Thou shalt not steal. Yeah. That's got to come off the books. Because it's got to be, the laws can't be just for a religion. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's ass, his ox, nor his ass, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant.
Carabao.
Yeah. When I read this first, I was wondering, have abortionists ever aborted a fetus from a straw woman? Because we have a classic example of the straw man fallacy here. The Catholic Church is clearly opposed to abortion. The church has an active group that promotes legislation designed to place these obstacles before all women in Guam. Laws are not written for one church or another. Laws are not intended to espouse religious doctrine, like killing, or to negate church teachings. Laws can, however, coexist with religious teaching. Legislators need to create laws that protect not just the church, but the entire community that it serves. So, advocating anti-abortion positions, when a senator advocates an anti-abortion position, is that protecting the church, or is that protecting the unborn child?
There's another nothing up my sleeve word sentence there.
Really?
Misdirection.
Yeah. As physicians, we advocate for safe health care that meets accepted medical standards, except when we're talking about unborn children. Then we like to kill them. Laws must ensure that individuals have access to safe health care services without the threat of harming the individual. Which individual would that be? Or the health professionals who serve the individual. Laws must also protect the individual's right to choose and the individual's right to privacy. Well, I suppose we should ask the unborn child, would you rather be born alive or would you rather be aborted? The child's right to choose. You know, when you start out, Jose, with a flawed premise, you're not going to get anywhere logical at all. And the flawed premise here is that it's okay, it's permissible, if not laudable, to take the life of an innocent, defenseless human being. Under the right circumstances, it's okay. And when you start out with that premise, you're never going to come out with anything that looks logical or reasonable, like this.
Especially as verbose as this one is.
and so susceptible to using misleading techniques. Then she goes on to say, there are no simple answers to resolving the dilemma of opposing viewpoints to abortion. Well, actually, there is. There really is. Often this discussion focuses on the divisive stands. We need to approach abortion on the common ground of care, compassion, and respect in our community. I agree with that. Care, compassion, and respect for every single human being on this island. Even if we may not agree with each other. So let's all be friends and let's compromise here. Because, you know, we're nice people. We just happen to like abortion. While we may not all agree about abortion, we can all agree that when people can make decisions that are best for their lives, families thrive. No, I can't agree to that. I can't agree if you make a decision that's best for you on abortion, that families are going to thrive.
See, if you add what she's really trying to say in place of these words like a decision, when people can kill their unborn child, make the decision to kill their unborn child, which is best for their lives, it doesn't sound that right. It doesn't sound good at all.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. It would be much better for our life if that child weren't born. Yeah. So while I was doing this, I peeked at my WhatsApp, and one of our international radio listening audience sent me one word that really fits nicely into this discussion. It's a person's name. The person was also a medical doctor. His name, Kevorkian. Yeah, it's okay to take the life of a human being. So they're just going Kevorkian one better by moving it way up in the life cycle. Not so hot, Dr. Ellen Bess. Not so hot at all. Okay, so I've got Kellis on the line, and I've got another Joe on the line. First Kellis, and then another Joe. Good afternoon, Kellis.
Afternoon, Judge. How you doing today?
Doing great.
So a couple of things I wanted to talk about when you were first talking about abortion and all this type of stuff. I called up and I was saying, you know, what's really odd about this, in not all states, but in a lot of states, that if you were to harm a woman who is pregnant at the time, and if the woman dies or if the fetus dies, the person can be prosecuted for murder.
That's our law, too. That is the law in Guam.
So if a person can be prosecuted for killing a fetus or a glob of cells, depending on how you want to say it, right? How is that? You know, in other words, if I unwillingly, you know, like if I'm a drunk driver and I were to hit a pregnant woman and the child dies, I can be, you know, instead of just drunk driving, it's also murder.
I think it depends on whether or not you're a doctor.
Oh, see, that's it. Because the other thing is, because you're like now, you were kind of like talking about Kevorkian, but I was saying, you know, like in Virginia and New York, how they said that after the child is born, they can, you know, sit down with the mother and say, just decide, do you want to have an abortion? So I'm of the intent because, you know, that child, the baby, cannot live by itself. So, you know, if I have like a nephew or a son who's like 20-something years old and is a leech, you know, off of me and could not possibly live on his own, shouldn't I be able to have an abortion?
A super late term abortion?
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, at first I remember the pro-choice people would say that it's not murder if the baby hasn't taken a breath, right? So at first they were like, as long as he hasn't taken a breath yet, so you can do a late-term abortion with the head still in the, you know, still in, pull the whole body out and remove the brains, and then it's abortion. But then if the baby comes out accidentally, then you can continue with the abortion after it's taken its breath, and that's what got what's his name?
Kermit Gosnell.
They made a movie.
Kermit Gosnell.
Gosnell, right? So Gosnell is doing life. And what I think is so horrible is what Gosnell was charged for and got life for, it is now legal in Virginia and in New York.
And celebrated.
Yeah. They lit up all the buildings in pink. But so if I'm saying if the child can survive and then have an abortion, I see no problem with aborting a 20 or a 17 or a 20-something year old child who cannot take care of himself.
Yeah, I agree, Killis.
So, I mean, where do you think the pro-choice people would draw the line?
And that's why I mentioned if you start out with a flawed premise, if you start out with the premise that under the right circumstances, it's okay to kill a defenseless human being, then you wind up with some really crazy results and some really hard lines to draw.
Yep. I have another question, but so like, is of these 25 questions, do they ask whether or not the person that had the abortion is a male or female?
I think that would be an invasion of the baby's privacy.
No, but I'm saying the person, not the baby, but I'm saying the person that is having the abortion, it could have been a male, correct?
Well, nowadays it's kind of hard to answer questions like that. Yeah, you know, in other words, can a male have an abortion?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a transgender woman who is, you know, et cetera, and I got pregnant, and so the reason I'm having an abortion is because I'm actually a man. So when I go in to have the abortion, they said, and they should say, excuse me, miss, I'm not a miss, I'm a man. I'm here for my abortion. So this gets me to what I originally called for early on before I heard anything with this identity and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So in other words, once a person or a entity identifies themselves a certain way, we all have to accept it without question.
That's right. That's right.
So if the United States said we are carbon neutral, couldn't we do that?
And that would be the end of the discussion, right?
That's the end of the discussion. We are not only we are carbon neutral. That's all we have to do. We could go back to the Paris Accord and everything. That we are already carbon neutral, just like China.
There you go.
But that's what I wanted to say. That, you know, along with, so like when you were sitting there saying that one, if you know, like, because if they sat there and they said identified, you know, sexual preference. So if there was a man that had an abortion, I would automatically, you know, that would identify that person.
His right to privacy would have been shattered.
His right to privacy would be, because then once you, like, when you look at the list, it doesn't matter that, you know, whether or not he graduated high school or how old or anything, but once it said a man, then it's like, okay, Fred had the abortion, because that's the only man that I know that could possibly get pregnant.
There you go, Killis.
Okay. But I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents there, Doc. Judge.
Yeah, good call. Thanks for calling, Kellis.
Yeah.
I noticed that Sharon asks, how come Bez's letter was approved over the 250 word maximum? I know the answer to that. She couldn't make a big enough fool out of herself in 250 words. So as a service to their readers, Post let her go longer. Thank you, Post. We knew that she was a fool, but we didn't quite realize the depth of her foolishness. Okay, so then I've got another Joe on line 2. Good afternoon, another Joe.
Hey, Bob. So, did you guys miss me yesterday? I was under the weather.
Did I what?
Did you guys miss me yesterday? I was under the weather.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Jose and I, during the big halftime show, we went outside and talked about compact impact for a few minutes just to kind of reminisce.
Did you talk about offering you new citizenship to?
Yeah, we did that. We covered that one too. Yeah, we had a good chat.
Yeah, loyal allies deserve to be acknowledged, just like the Hmong from the Vietnam era, right? They were evacuated from Vietnam,
right?
Became U.S. citizens. Yeah, look, Bob. So the reason I called was regarding the we should all. You were saying we should all get along. We should all be able to have a dialogue, friendly dialogue, without hostility. They should make that something that is pronounced or spoken before the legislature sessions, and also before just casual conversation, so that there's no hostilities. With an understanding there's not going to be hostilities. But regarding that issue of whether or not someone identifies as a male or a female, I've seen the commercials. They say that the way they refer to the female as is assigned female at birth. I think that's the way they describe a female without getting in trouble.
Okay, I got a seventh inning stretch coming up here, another Joe. Did you have a really important message you want to leave me with before I head for Wrigley Field?
It seems like every 20, 30 years, they come up with the same conversations: abortion. There's the riots. So I'm just glad people are talking about having the conversation and not attacking each other. But we definitely need to address the law, because they're obviously trying to push the envelope. They're trying to change the laws. So we need to find a way to counter that. And so if they're talking about that the laws are not up to date, I would think that our laws are based on the will of the people, the majority. And so if the majority is wrong, if it's not constitutional, does that mean the majority are wrong?
Could be, another Joe. I got to head for Wrigley Field, so I'm glad you called.
Okay, well, I'll just keep listening.
All right. And then after that, I've got Trina waiting in the green room after we get back from Wrigley Field.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at GuamTraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts. Brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
76 Circle K, the Subaki Tower, and Spa Ayalam bring you another staycation. We are celebrating Mom and all she does. Win a 2-night stay at the luxurious Subaki Tower, get pampered by Spa Ayalam, and enjoy a delicious lunch and dinner at Casa Oceano. All you have to do is purchase $35 or more in 76 fuel and enter to win a staycation fit for a mom. The more you gas, the more chances of winning. Visit 76circlekguam.com or any Circle K location for more information.
Okay, so here we are, Wrigley Field in Chicago, 7th inning stretch. Everybody out there in the outfield stood up, took a stretch. They're looking for the popcorn man out there. I'm not looking for the popcorn man. I'm just looking for one of the fans named Trina, who I think is on line 1. Correct, Trina?
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Good. I just wanted to say a couple of things. The first is that not all people who oppose abortion are Christian or Catholic. There are atheists who oppose abortion. And when people who are not, are probably pro-choice, but have not been faced or given the facts of abortion, as you can see, there. If you do a Google search, you'll see that there's a group that goes to college campuses and shows an abortion procedure video to students who would be pro-choice before they see that video. But once they're faced with the reality of what the procedure is and what it does and the brutality of it, their mind has changed. They no longer think of it as just getting rid of tissue or a simple medical procedure. You know, there's also the pills that they take. Those are so. The reality is that they're told just take this and go home. And when they take it and they go home, and then they experience the medicinal abortion. It's horrible, you know, and so. And regret is a thing that's not talked about a lot. They're part of a main part of a pro-life ministry or any pro-life organization is helping women who regret their decision, you know, after they've made their decision for whatever reason they've made it. So there's so much more to the conversation than just, you know, and just because it's legal doesn't make it right. The government doesn't tell us what's right. They may make the laws. They don't tell us what's right or wrong. And, you know, when you take the life of another human being, if they're inside the womb or outside the womb, it's still taking a life, you know, for whatever reason that you do it. However, you've gotten to that point, you know, and if there's anybody in your listening audience who is in a situation, Dr. Shea has offered to help, and there is an organization here on Guam that helps. There's the Ohala Adoption Agency, but there's also Safe Haven Pregnancy Center. You'll find friends there, people who will walk through pregnancy with you, and if you've had abortion and you need help post-abortion, there's friends there who will help you as well. So, you know, and it's not just a Catholic Church law, an issue of the church. There's people out there who don't confess faith in God, who don't follow God for any reason, whatever reason, and they are pro-life because of the brutality of it. So people need to do their homework. They need to research what the reality of abortion is, and they need to examine what their stance is based on. What's the foundation? Why are they pro-choice? So those are just points I want to make. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about the subject. So.
Well, it's easier to be passionate about a subject when you're absolutely right, Trina, and you're absolutely right. And on the religion and the Catholic angle, for Ellen and for so many of the pro-abortion folks, it's a cheap shot. And you could be a moral person without having a religion. And then there's another angle here, the so-called natural angle, a natural law angle, that in order for the human race to survive, women have to have children. So if these pro-aborts people were successful and every woman who ever became pregnant had an abortion, it would be the end of the human race.
That's what I was thinking. Like, if the life is not valuable unless it's needed. And, if it was the last lady on earth and she got pregnant, would they want her to abort because she didn't want to have the baby?
It might interfere with her career.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you for calling, Trina.
Thank you. Okay, take care.
Yeah, great call from Trina. I think the first-time caller, huh?
I think so. Since I've been here, yeah.
Yeah.
But probably a long-time listener because she knew her stuff.
Yeah,
definitely.
She sure did, yeah.
Safe Haven, I like it when people bring that up because it is a place. I think it's in Essen, and does do a whole lot, not just for the expectant mother, but after the birth also.
Yeah. Yeah. Well. And I have to take issue with something that our regular caller, another Joe, said, about getting along. And it's really difficult, when you're facing some kinds of issues to say, well, we should just be calm and discuss this. When you're talking about killing somebody, it's really difficult to say, well, they're entitled to their viewpoint and they can act on their viewpoint just like I can act on mine. Because as Trina said, it's legal, but that doesn't mean it's right. It's still wrong, legal or not. Okay, so I'm going to watch this one tomorrow. Anybody who wants to bring this subject up, open phones anytime. Anytime you want to talk about O'Malley, Bez, and abortion. There's a lot to be said about it. Moving on to the next item on the card. I just wanted to mention something about Rush Limbaugh. Of course, we're all really sad that he's gone. It's not a surprise. We knew it was coming. And, of course, Rush's absence just gives us, each one of us, a little bit heavier burden to carry, because Rush has been carrying that conservative burden for a long time for an awful lot of folks. So all of us have to pick up the slack. If you're a Facebooker, get on Facebook. Tell the conservative story. And as I've mentioned before, go to Jungle Watch. Use the comment page on Jungle Watch, and let's get some conservative conversations going here, because Rush can't do it for us anymore. And I did want to make one comment on my understanding of Rush's success. And I read this somewhere, maybe 5 years ago, that what happened was this, that when Rush first started in the late 80s, AM radio was on its way out because FM radio was becoming ubiquitous. It was everywhere. And the fidelity on FM radio is so much better than AM radio that people didn't want to listen to music on AM radio anymore. So you had all of this AM air to fill. You could still broadcast baseball games and stuff like that, but other than that, there wasn't much there. So Rush had the ability to affect people's brains in the same way that music does when they're listening to the radio. Now, I can't do it exactly like Rush does, but Rush had his own particular way of, Rush had his own particular sense of delivery. I don't think the guy ever took a breath. He kept going all the time. It was a constant sound. It was like listening to music on the radio, and because of that, people who were used to listening to AM naturally had an affinity for Rush's voice on AM radio, and then because he had that kind of delivery and because of the content that he had, he was very successful. So in a sense, Rush Limbaugh kind of invented AM talk radio, is what happened. Kind of like Henry Ford invented universal transportation. So he deserves a lot of credit. He carried the conservative message so well for so long. He will be missed. So rest in peace, Rush Limbaugh. And let's see. That's a flyover for Rush.
That was heavy applause.
Okay. Okay, it's a little early, but I noticed the drive-thru down at McDonald's is open, and I've got none other than, it's time for Drive-Thru Jack. Go ahead, give me your order, Jack. What do you have? Fish wish.
I will be eating at home tonight, there, Bob.
You're a spoiled sport, Jack. I was hoping to take your order, and then I'd have Jose call it into McDonald's.
Well, yeah, did some discount shopping last week over at Quality Distributors. Bought some fish and shrimp for the Lenten season, and that's what we're going to be having. But I just wanted to say that it was nice to see you at church last night for Ash Wednesday, and
of course, you're always incognito, Jack, so I would never recognize you if you walked into the studio.
Well, actually, you waved, so I thought you recognized me. I was a little bit disappointed when I saw you because you sound a lot taller on the radio, and so
I was standing in a shadow, Jack.
that may have been it. And then you got into that little clown car, and I was just cracking up. I said, "What on earth?"
I've had that little clown car for 29 years, Jack.
That was a Cube, was it?
Was I driving the Cube last night?
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. No, I haven't had that one. I've had the Rocky for. Let's see.
No, I know the Rocky. I know the Rocky. Yeah. You have one of the original ones that I think back at the time was not DOT, Department of Transportation, approved in the U.S. because the chassis was too small.
Could be.
And, you have one. Yeah, you have one of the original ones. But yeah, it was nice to see you. And I thought you recognized me because you waved. I guess you waved to everybody.
I'm just such a friendly guy, Jack. And I run into tailgaters almost everywhere I go, so I don't want any tailgater to think I didn't acknowledge.
Yeah, so it was kind of sad to hear what happened to Rush. It was coming, but you're never prepared for these things, no matter how no matter how you try, you never get prepared for death. Nobody is. It's the final. It's the curtain. What did Shakespeare say? That it's the unforeseen curtain or something like that nobody has come back and told us about except for Jesus. But I just wanted to say I was listening about the abortion, and whenever and the thing about it, and this is part of Russia's repertoire, is that you attack an issue on a strong point. If you want to get a point across, you attack an issue on a strong point. And when it comes to abortion, no matter what strong point they pick, well, it's a woman's right to choose. Well, the sex of a baby is determined, I think, 14 weeks. So what if the baby in the womb is a woman? How about her choice? And is it really that safe? And like I mentioned before, half of the people involved with it end up dying. I mean, what is it, 99% of it, the fetus dies?
Sure.
And sometimes the mother dies also. It's not as safe as people make it out to be. And on and on and on and on. Well, it has to be a sentient being. Of course, you had that discussion with Dr. Poole a couple of years ago about sentient beings. So whatever issue they have about abortion, whatever strong point they have, it has already been discussed to death, but they keep on cycling it back and forth, like science was at a standstill back in 1914 or 1912 when the Planned Parenthood pamphlet came out. So they keep saying, "Oh, listen to the science, obey the science." All embryologists say that conception and life begins at conception. So science is there on pro-life side. So it's just kind of hard, and sometimes you just have to push your way away from the table. But this is the problem that we have today: is that much of the media, much of the discussion has been one-sided because the other side has been silent. Life News, their YouTube has been taken down. Mm-hmm. All their YouTube content is gone. So we have a big problem. We have a big problem, and it's not just something that can be corrected politically. It's something that we've been we gave up the fight. We gave up the fight, Bob, when we allowed our local government to define who's essential and who's not.
We did.
I mean, I can understand when they say, you know, the government comes out and says these government people, these government employees, these government workers, these government entities, these contractors are essential. But how does that translate to going out to the churches, going out to private businesses and say you're not essential?
And I got on that myself, Jack. I was critical of the bishop when the governor said that churches were not essential. And my explanation is churches are not essential or non-essential. Churches are churches. And we decided back in 1791 that people had the right, the free exercise of religion. So it's got, you know, the governor had no business characterizing or categorizing churches at all.
And then it just ducktailed into other areas. And so we're here today. The government's still telling people who's essential, who's not essential, saying, oh, the COVID rules apply over here, but it doesn't apply over there. And, you know, it doesn't make any scientific sense. It doesn't make any social sense. It does make a dogma and a political sense, a demagogical sense. It does make that kind of sense.
Sure.
But other than that, you know, it's like, and we lost a great fighter for individual rights, and I don't know who's going to replace him. And even if there was somebody to replace him, what platform are you going to be on? And it's just a toss-up, and it's I don't know what to say, Bob. I'm glad it's Lenten season. It's a good time for reflection. It's a good time to remember that thus we shall return. And so, well, anyways, Bob, I just wanted to say it was great seeing you, and I hope to see you more often.
Okay, Jack.
Okay.
See you later.
The vaccine is officially here, and we aren't just talking about the COVID vaccine, but a financial vaccine at Bank Pacific. We may not be doctors, but we can help you with your financial health. Whether to take advantage of today's crazy low rates, or just a local bank that has your back. At Bank Pacific, we want to help make 2021 your best year yet. Because for 66 years, where others put branches, we place roots, and we're rooting for you. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Now you can listen to The Point on radio.com. And radio.com gives you so much more. Local news stations give you what's going on in your community. Get national news from CBS, CNN, or Fox News Radio. Take a break with one of the hundreds of music, sports, and talk stations. Love podcasts? Radio.com has thousands of true crime, comedy, kids and family podcasts, and more. Listen anytime, anywhere. On your PC, smart speakers, and a variety of connected devices. Or download the radio.com app now from the App Store or Google Play.
There we are, Churchill Downs, Louisville, Kentucky, the home stretch. And when I look out on the racetrack, who do I see walking around helping the horses into the starting gate? None other but our Fred. Hello, our Fred.
Hi, our Bob. How you doing?
Doing great.
So, first of all, like I told
Jose.
Jose. I'm thinking Isaiah. So I told Jose I am not going to discuss compact impact.
Yeah, well, that's kind of our Joe's job, so I'm sure he'll appreciate that.
Okay, so talking about abortion and all that, and the article you were reading earlier about the justification of telemedicine, I think Sharon Malin, you're saying, was the article on. So by her reasoning, giving those 2 pills to a woman to abort the baby, kill the baby, and then force ejection of the baby from the body and saying that's okay because a miscarriage happens, and so we're just mimicking a miscarriage.
Yeah,
which,
that's Dr. Ellen Bez who said that.
Oh, Ellen, okay.
Yeah.
Ellen Bez, okay. That's what I'm talking about. So she's justifying killing a baby through that process because it's someone like a miscarriage. Or, well, I guess by that same reasoning, we could say when someone is angry at somebody and they murder somebody, you could tell the judge, well, judge, that guy was going to die anyway when he was 50, 60, or 70 by some health causes.
Sure.
So I killed him earlier.
Yeah, I shot him in the chest, so it was kind of like the same thing as a heart attack.
Yeah, so, I just helped it out, okay? Like we helped the baby out, right? It might have 50-50 chance miscarriage. So what kind of reasoning is this? Killing, Roe v. Wade and all that. Bottom line, killing a baby is a sin. It's a crime. It's murder. I don't know why people keep coming up with technicalities if there's a heartbeat or not. Look, there's circumstances that happen, like rape and incest or whatever. Yeah, those are circumstances that are unfortunate. But you still got a baby and you can't kill it. Cannot kill it. You can put it up for adoption. But killing a human is just wrong, dead wrong. And I don't know why people can't get that in their head. You're killing an innocent person or innocent baby that someday is a Martin Luther King or a John F. Kennedy that just because...
Or a Rush Limbaugh.
Or a Rush Limbaugh. Just because it can't speak doesn't mean you kill it. That's wrong. And that's it. There shouldn't be any other justification or reasoning for this. That's it. That's the answer. For whatever unfortunate reason, if it was an accident, you're pregnant, you can't kill a baby. Why can't these adults get it in their head nationwide, worldwide? Simple. Unless it's a business and abortionists are lobbying senators and so forth to make it legal. That's illegal in itself.
Well, Planned Parenthood is big bucks.
Well, that's where it is. It's because it's money. But at the end of the day, killing a fetus is murder. That's it. This really, it's like 1 + 1 = 2. That's how simple this is.
Yeah.
That's all I want to say.
Well, you said a mouthful, Fred, and I'm glad you got in. I'm
Yeah.
glad you got in at the end of the show here to say that. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Bob. All right.
Okay, our Fred. Yeah, our Fred hit the nail right on the head, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
As is his usual custom.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we don't call him our Fred for nothing, right?
You know, and a lot of people would sometimes bring up rape or incest as a reason, as another reason, but I really appreciate it that our Fred understood that there's still a life involved.
Yeah, and as heinous as rape is, if you're looking to cast blame, you can't blame
The child.
The defenseless child involved there. Yeah, and a human is a human, and the potential of the human is not decided by such extraneous matters as that. So, in a sense, it's kind of a cop-out to say, well, yeah, but rape and incest are different. It isn't different. It's the same thing.
Now, do you remember at the beginning, before you read the letter, I said I had a question? Okay. This is the question. According to who Dr. Bez is and her profession, why is she not providing this medicine on Guam?
It's a good question. I think she's an OBGYN. I'm sure she knows how to do it. Yeah.
That would be interesting to find out the reasons why she's not.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, another part of that same story is that we have to have this telemedicine because apparently every doctor on the island has a conscience and will not take the life of a defenseless human being.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. Yeah. But it'd be interesting if someone would stick a microphone in Dr. Ellen Bez's face and say, "Don't you do abortions, Dr. Ellen Bez? Don't you know how to do that? Wouldn't that be part of your skill set as an OBGYN practitioner?
Well, she's making the argument for it. That's what I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, maybe she figuratively doesn't want to get her hands dirty, right? It's okay for somebody else to do it, but not for her. Okay, I got about 2 more minutes here. Just let me go down the call roll here on Facebook. Next item on the card is Chris versus the governor. Pretty good item, but I don't want to just get into it for a couple minutes and then not be able to finish it up. So let's see. First to sign in today, looks like it was Sherry Iriarte. And then, And then Sandra Regis was after that. And let's see. Little dialogue there between you and Sandra Regis. Sherry, and then MP Ogle. I don't think I've seen that name on there before.
Comes in every now and then.
MP Ogle. Military policeman, maybe.
Ooh.
MP.
I'm being good.
Yeah, and then Rico Blancaflor is a regular. And rest in peace, Rush from Rico. Ken Brown, all the way from California, right? Did a hitch at Anderson once upon a time. And it's late at night, isn't it? It's 6 hours later there, so it's...
Faithful listener.
It's midnight in California right now. Glad you're with us, Ken Brown. And let's see, Tom Mendiola. Welcome back, Tom. You know, Tom used to be a real regular on Tall Tales. I'm glad to see you back, Tom. Maybe you can give us a buzz tomorrow. Let's see, and one new comment there, Janice Wong, who says she is a retired military policeman.
Ooh.
Okay. Well, we'll keep that in mind, Janice, when you make your comments on Facebook. Okay. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Adios.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
New troubles may be brewing for New York's governor. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. The FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office in Brooklyn, New York, beginning an investigation into Governor Andrew Cuomo's administration and the way it handled the state's nursing home crisis at the start of the coronavirus pandemic. This according to the Albany Times-Union, which reports subpoenas have been issued. The governor has not been charged with any wrongdoing, but several state New York Democrat Assembly members accuse the governor of obstructing justice. Now, one of them says he's being threatened.
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo goes after State Assemblyman Ron Kim, the governor's loudest Democrat critic of the nursing home scandal.
My office, more than me, has had a long and hostile relationship with Assemblyman Ron Kim.
Kim is one of 9 Democrats accusing the governor of obstruction of justice, even trying to strip him of his emergency powers after his top aide revealed the administration delayed the release of